Good evening, respected chairpersons and dear friends. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. N. Khanna, my mentor in interventional cardiology, for having invited me as a faculty to this good meeting. I am going to present a case of endovascular closure of isolated iliac artery aneurysm. It was a 69-year-old male. He was a diabetic and hypertensive for the last 10 years. He developed hematuria with pain abdomen. He went to a urologist who advised him a CT abdomen. The CT abdomen showed a crossed renal ectopic. Both the kidney were fused and on the right side with a renal artery arising much lower than the usual side. And he had a long left common iliac aneurysm with thrombus, and he also had a calculi in the kidney. And then he was, because of the aneurysm, he was referred to us. And then we advised him the coronary angiogram along with an aortic angiogram to see the aneurysm. So we did an angiogram. It showed double vessel disease. There were multiple lesions and long lesions. Surgery was a better option. And the iliacs were very tortuous. There was a single right fused kidney, a long left iliac aneurysm, and the ectopic kidney had one main renal artery which was arising just immediately above the bifurcation, and two accessory renals. One was arising from the left iliac above the aneurysm, and one was arising from the aneurysm. So then we told him that he has to undergo a CABG and endovascular closure of the iliac aneurysm. Patient was upset. He had only hematuria, and we are advising him a major open heart surgery and endovascular closure of aneurysm. So first he underwent CABG with 2 grafts in June 2011, and after that it took us 9 months to convince him for an endovascular procedure. So this is the CT picture. You can see both the fused kidneys on the right side. This is the main renal artery arising just immediately above the bifurcation. You can see the very tortuous both iliacs, and you can see the other two accessory renal arteries. One is this, which is actually arising from the iliac artery, well above the aneurysm, and the second accessory renal artery arising from the aneurysm. And it was very tortuous, almost crossing over to the other side. So the issues here were the aneurysm was very long, almost 220 millimeters. So you couldn't cover it with a single graft. You needed 2 grafts to be overlapped to cover this aneurysm. And there were, of these 2 accessory renals, one was arising from the aneurysm. So you had to close that also to prevent an endo leak. And you also needed to close the internal iliac before doing closure of the aneurysmal sac. So this is the aortic angiogram taken with a pigtail catheter. It was done under general anesthesia because we had to do the arteriotomy. The surgeon helped us in doing a left femoral arteriotomy, and right through endovascular, through percutaneous, we had placed a sheath, and then a pigtail passed through the sheath. We have taken this angiogram. And this is the left internal iliac artery being selectively engaged. And then the left internal iliac artery with engaged with a 5 French Judkins catheter using a 035 Thermo J-tip wire, a Cook's coil 038 8x8 was embolized. And this is the closure of the internal iliac artery. Then hooking the accessory renal artery was difficult because it was arising from the lower side of the aneurysmal sac. There was an acute angulation at the point of entry, and so the catheter would not engage it. So we had to take a Cobra glide catheter, and then the 035 wire was backing up. With a coronary 014 whisper wire, we were able to enter it. And then that Cobra glide catheter would not go in. When we push it, everything would back up. So then we had to use a vertebral glide catheter where the 014 was attached to your dock, and then over that the vertebral glide catheter was exchanged, and then we could push in the catheter inside. And this is the shot of the renal artery. This was then embolized with a 0385 into 5 coil. This probably was a little bigger. So then next we took in another 035 5 into 3 coil, and after that the accessory renal artery was embolized successfully. So this is the image after having embolized the left internal iliac and the accessory renal artery. So then next our plan was through the right we wanted to pass a pigtail above and keep it above the bifurcation so that we can take images, and from the left we wanted to pass a Lunderquist super stiff wire and then over that take the two stent grafts and deploy it. What happened was, unfortunately, the staff who was working on the right groin, when we asked her to pass the wire, the sheath was pointing out a little. So she pushed the sheath and then passed the wire. There was resistance in passing the wire. So what had happened was, the sheath which was partially out, when pushed, probably hit and dissected the iliac artery, and then the wire went subintimally, and the wire had almost reached till here. And an injection through the common femoral sheath, you can see the false lumen extending from here till here. I mean, in this particular case, this was very bad because we had the renal artery. We had already coil embolized one accessory renal artery, and the other renal artery, main renal artery, was arising from the just immediately above the bifurcation. If that gets closed, his kidney is jeopardized, and we had already coil embolized the left internal iliac. If this comes down, it will also close the other internal iliac, which can lead to ischemia of the pelvic organs. So we did not want to further disturb the flap created. We removed off that wire, and then we took the left radial axis. And through a pigtail, when we injected, we saw there was good antegrade flow. So we thought nature will take care of the flap created, and we thought we'll go ahead and engage and deploy the stents from the left femoral axis. So then through the left femoral approach, this is the 16 into 13, 120 millimeter long endurance stent graft being deployed. The upper end of the stent had to be just below the second accessory renal artery. So we checked that and then started deploying the stent. Then the second 16 into 30, 120 millimeter long endurance stent was overlapped with the other stent. At this stage, you can see the hugely distended bladder. The surgeon would not allow us to catheterize since he didn't want the field to become unsterile, and his BP shot to almost 300 by 120, 130. He started him on NTG, but still could not bring it to normal, and we are more worried about the distended bladder. Then it was post-stent, the stent was dilated with a Reliant 46 millimeter balloon at the proximal and distal edges and at the overlap sides. And this was the final angiogram. The flow was okay. The distal pulses were good. And then after the surgeon closed the arteriotomy wound, we put in a Foley's and drained the bladder. And after that, his pressures fell down to normal. 1 month later, we had a CT done, and this is the post-CT picture showing good flow and a patent stent with no endo leak, and he had good distal flow in the lower limbs. Thank you.
Thanks, that's great. Very good case. Can I just one comment and then we close the session? Do we really need to coil the renal arteries, because they are end arteries and they are not like other arteries where you can have a type 2 endoleak? I really don't know, because I feel that wherever you have put in the stents or wherever you put in the stent across the renal arteries, all these renal arteries, they thrombose because they are end arteries. So the
renal artery, 80% was being supplied by that main artery. another 10% by the other accessory, another 10% by accessory. I mean, by blocking this renal artery, I'm sure I'm not going to damage the kidney.
no. I'm not
But I didn't want to take a chance. I mean, you could develop a connection between the two renals also, accessory renal.
Thank you.
Okay.